Everybody,
Where is everybody?
we do have a quorum. Mr. Max and Chuck. Good afternoon. At this time, I'll call the October meeting of the Iredell-Statesville Board of Education to order. The chair would entertain a motion to go into closed session for property and personnel issues.
And, Mr. Chairman, also, if we could update on pending legal matters.
On some legal matters. Very good.
Mr. Chairman, according to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11, I make a motion that the board enter into closed session to discuss personnel and
Property.
And preserve the attorney-client privilege.
And also discuss pending legal matters.
Pending legal matters as well.
Okay, I got a motion to go into closed session, personnel, property, and legal matters. Now I have a second. Is there, Mr. Kelly, with a second? Is there any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We'll now move into closed session. Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to go back into open session.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
I have a motion and second for Iredell-Statesville Board of Education to go back into open session from its closed session. Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, no. At this time, the Iredell-Statesville School Board of Education is now in regular session. It is our policy to begin our meetings with a moment of silence in which board members, staff, and guests may privately reflect in their own way on the business of this meeting. Tonight, I ask for special thoughts and prayers for all the people affected by the recent events in Las Vegas, as well as those dealing with the aftermath of the hurricanes. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, please join with us as the colors are presented by the West Iredell High School Junior ROTC, and join with us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we move into our agenda, I would like to clarify our public comment sign-up procedure to be more aligned with our policy, but to allow everyone the opportunity to speak. We will keep the public comment sign-up sheet out front until we're ready to open the floor to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to the board must sign up prior to that time. There will be no additional sign-ups once public comment starts. While the board welcomes our shareholders' views, please remember comments should not be slanderous or personal in nature. To be fair to everyone, comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Thank you. Mr. Johnson, is there, board members, is there any changes, additions, or subtractions to our agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, under item F, other business, we would like to add a presentation of a memorandum of understanding between the school board and the county commissioners on the Ebenezer and Monticello property.
Under F, we'll be adding memorandum of understanding with Iredell County commissioners on 2 properties. Is there any other changes, board members or Mr. Johnson? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I make that motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve the amended agenda. Are there any other discussions? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Agenda is now approved. At this time, it's our pleasure to introduce our newest board member who is filling the vacated District 3 seat, Mr. Sam Kennington. And at this time, Jim Mixon will be swearing Mr. Kennington in. If his wife would like to come up with him. And
commentary, Mr. Page, I'd like to know that you can't hand me my high school diploma 7 years ago.
several years ago. Oh, I thought you were going to say after several senior years, he finally gave you a diploma. So I wasn't real sure where you were headed with. I checked to make sure he never suspended you before, so I wanted to. Okay, very good, very good.
Raise your right. Repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a member of the Iredell-Statesville Board of Education. So help me God.
Thank you, Jim. Now, Mr. Keenan, we're going to put you to work. At this time, we will move into our consent agenda. We have personnel. Dr. Lassane.
Mr. Page, Mr. Johnson, members of the board, you have received and had the opportunity to review the October personnel report. Are there any questions?
Any comments or questions?
The only question I have is, do we do an exit interview?
Yes, we do. And that information is available if you would like to review the results of any of our exit interviews.
In your office?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Gayen, you had a request.
Dr. Singh, under rehires, number one, I need to recuse myself on one item, one person.
Yes.
Mr. Gayen will be recusing himself on number one under rehires. Thank you, Dr. Lassane.
Thank you.
We have minutes of 3 board meetings to approve. The September 5th Committee of the Whole meeting, September 11th Board of Education meeting, and on September 15th, a special call meeting. Board members, any comments, questions about the minutes? No comments or questions at this time. The chair would entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda, including the minutes, understanding that Mr. Gayen is recusing himself for number one under rehires.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, including minutes, with Mr. Gayen recused from number one under rehires. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Carries unanimously. Thank you, Board. This time we will move into recognitions. Ms. Susie Weiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Good evening, everybody. Well, we have several recognitions tonight, and the first one is another real special one to me. Mr. Rigoberto Contreras and his wife, Ada Yolani, own and operate the Latin America Beauty Salon and Barbershop on Front Street in Statesville. They are true friends to our students and our staff. Before school started this year, they provided free haircuts to students who would not have been able to afford them otherwise. Additionally, they donated 3 hair makeovers for 3 of our McKinney-Vento students so that they could attend their senior prom last academic year. Mr. Contreras and Ms. Yolani are very supportive community partners who care about our students and our families, and I think we all really appreciate their generosity. So I know Mr. Contreras is here this evening, and I wonder, he also has 3 students in our schools. He has an 11th grader at Statesville High, an 8th grader at East Middle, and a 5th grader at East Elementary. So in addition to running their salon, they are busy parents and very supportive. So, Mr. Contreras, would you mind coming up here, please? Really had to convince him to come do this. Accompanying Mr. Contreras is Herbert Venegas. If I could have you perhaps go over here. And Mr. Page, would you mind coming up front with the certificate? I know you're not right. Thanks very much. I need to be going through something. So I just advertise you all.
Martin. He needs to translate. He needs to translate.
He didn't bring us any tonight.
The coolest thing ever. Mr. Salgado is still not here? Herbert? He's still not here. If I may, Mr. Salgado is one of our recognitions this evening, and he was driving up from South Carolina to be here. So if we are able, maybe when he gets here, we could get him in here. Okay, so another one of the very strong advocates for the children in this county is the Dove House. Safety First, an initiative of this community partner, began in our schools this year. Targeting 5th and 6th grade students, this program is much more than educating children about sexual abuse. It covers, in an age-appropriate lesson, internet safety and other aspects of personal safety with 3 simple words: stop, run, tell. So thank you, Dove House, for your work with our students. And with us tonight is Jackie Bumgarner, the Executive Director, Allegra Knapp, who is running the Safety First, and other board members. So if we could, maybe Jackie and Allegra could maybe say a few things, and then we can do a picture.
All right, thanks for having us. And just a quick correction, it's actually 1st grade and 5th grade students, not 5th and 6th. And this program began last year. You guys graciously approved us to come into your school system, and it was an awesome success last year. We had lots of great feedback from the community members and teachers and counselors. So we are definitely gracious to be back in the school system this year. And with the 1st and 5th grade students, we are loving being there. So thank you to all of you guys for having us. And thanks to a couple of our board members that have us there, are with us tonight. And we're also excited to see some Iredell-Statesville school members at our event tomorrow. We're having a fundraiser, the Children's Voice Luncheon, for those of you who may be there with us. I know Brady was there with us last year. He actually spoke at our event last year. So thank you guys for all of your support. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you for having us here tonight. I'll make it short. I'm Jackie Bumgarner. I am new as the Executive Director of Dove House. I've been there a year. I served on their board for several years prior to joining as the director. I do appreciate the partnership that we have with the school system. It's been tremendous. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. God, we think the same. That's dangerous. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, yeah. That's scary, isn't it?
Board, we're very fortunate to have Dr. Lassane, who serves on the board of directors with Dove House. Makes a very nice connection for us.
Absolutely, and I wanted to comment because there's so many things the public never knows that the Dove House does for the school system. It's a tremendous asset for the entire county, and we do rely on them for a lot of things. Like I said, it's things that need to be done, and we really appreciate what they do. So thank you very much.
Well, yay.
Yay.
Mr. Salgado made it. All right. Oh. And because I saw the whole thing, Mr. Salgado is a local contractor, as you can see, and in early 2016, after seeing that there was no area on the grounds of Troutman Elementary School where students and staff could gather to relax, to read, just sit back and talk, Mr. Salgado decided to do something about that. So by August of 2016, a beautiful rock and brick patio was completed and ready for use in the center courtyard at Troutman Elementary. It really is a work of art. If you have not seen it, it's absolutely beautiful. It will provide a tranquil resting place for years to come. It's just beautiful. Mr. Salgado donated his time and all the materials to create this beautiful patio. So another very generous community member who it was really hard to get him here so that he could be thanked for this, but these are the kind of parents we have. So I think that's important. And thank you.
Susie, I believe the principal, Kim Cressman's here. If we could bring her up also. And who's the lucky one that gets to do this one?
Well, I believe
You, it's your district.
your district, so I think it should be you. Mr. Salgado, come up here. On the spot, right here.
Good job with that. Thank you.
So for many years, probably 11, our district has participated with WSOC TV in the annual School Tools collection campaign. We've been very lucky to have such great cooperation with our community partners, and we've had very successful school supply drives, thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of school supplies. So the much coveted Stuff the Bus Award, this year will be awarded to Mannheim-Statesville, or as we all refer to it, the auto auction. The supplies collected by this organization were transported to ADR by a pickup truck that I know very well. It took 2 trips from Mannheim to ADR, and the bed and the back of the truck were completely filled. So our community as a whole really comes together for this. And our students and staff will have, this year, they'll have all the supplies, hopefully, that they need. They're still in the back of ADR. Most of them have been sent out to schools. But that supply drive was pushed way up over the top by Mannheim. So tonight, I have my friend from Mannheim, and that's Tiffany Reed. Ellie Johnson is the general manager of Mannheim-Statesville. And Jason Albright are here tonight. And Mr. Johnson, I wonder if you would, since you are intimately involved with the school supply drive with me, helping me unload supplies, along with a lot of the staff at ADR, I wonder if you guys would come up here. And we have the award, the bus, and the certificate suitable for framing. I'm sure we can hang right in front. And I want you to know that bus award is prize. It was a yeoman's job. You guys were pretty fabulous. Oh, yes, very much. We will not have to buy paper.
Thank you, Ms. Weiberg. It goes without saying that our volunteers and the corporations and companies and businesses in Iredell County, we could not get along without their support and the things they do for us. So thank you very much for recognizing those tonight. Mr. Johnson, I believe you have a recognition.
I do. This next recognition is actually for the Board of Education. And you are to be congratulated as a recipient of the Gold Bell Award, which is presented by the North Carolina School Boards Association. As you know, the School Boards Association encourages all board members to seek professional development and to complete your continuing ed hours each year. And this year, our Board of Education is being recognized by the State School Boards Association because you've all done a stellar job of doing that. You did your homework and you got your training hours. So we do have a certificate for you, and Mr. Page will let you decide how you want to present this, or if you want to call the group up for another photograph. It's your call.
Let's get them all up there for a picture, and we'll figure it out from there.
Let's do it.
All right. Come on, gang.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'd like to thank the board. This board continuously works to improve itself. It's just great to work with a group that's as dedicated to the youth and to do as good a job as we possibly can. So thank you, board. Y'all are just a great group to work with. We'll move into our non-consent agenda. First will be policy readings. For first readings, 2 policies. Ms. Weiberg, back to you again.
The first policy for the first reading tonight is the student voter registration and pre-registration, with the changes that were suggested and agreed upon to the policy. Are there any other questions about this?
This is a first reading. There'll be no vote tonight. We went over this pretty thoroughly at the committee of the whole meeting. Board members, any questions or comments?
My question would be since the social studies teachers had a role in it prior to this change, would they have a role in it after the change?
Well, I think that much of that will be left up to the school teams. The school principals are the ones that will be making that decision, probably in conjunction with the rest of the team from the school. So the availability of the registration forms will be left with the principal.
And the teachers I talked to, they all plan to do the same thing. They were, it would just totally be up to the principal if that's part of their, what they do.
We used to have civics teachers.
All right, no other comments.
And the second one is the policy 5008, the automated phone and text messaging. That's a new policy, relates to automatic telephone dialing, or what we call Connect Ed or Blackboard Connect calls. We are in compliance. That's a brand new policy.
That's pretty much what we've been doing. It's just policy now. Is that correct? Any other comments or questions of Ms. White? I'm sorry, Ms. Weiberg.
That's all right.
These will come back next month for a vote. They'll lay for 30 days if anybody has any comments.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Taylor, School Improvement Plan and Department Improvement Plans, first reading.
Yes, Mr. Page, members of the board, we did provide you with a link to access the school improvement plans and department improvement plans on the district website. All of our schools are now using a platform for their school improvement planning, which is called NC STAR, so the templates will look a little different than what you've seen in the past. The schools have posted their comprehensive reports there for you online, but then they have more detailed information at the school sites. If you've got any feedback on those plans, please share that with either myself, Mr. Ribick for elementary, or Ms. Cooper for the secondary. We will come back before the board in November, and the board will be required to approve the school improvement plans. You also have department plans, and while department plans are not a state requirement, all of our departments complete department plans to kind of guide their planning and to model for the schools, so you have those on the webpage for your review as well. I'm glad to answer any questions you may have.
I'd just like to make a comment. I read through several. I hadn't read through all of them and that, but they're a lot more detailed. I think they're really good. They're focusing on real improvements and real things that are there, and I think there's more team approaches to the schools that are doing them, at least by the detail I'm reading in them. So I think it's a great process. I know it's a lot of work, but very good.
Good.
If there's no other comments or questions, thank you, Dr. Taylor. Ms. White, you have the 16-17 audited financial statements, always a highlight of our meeting.
It's thrilling reading, yes. Tonight we have Mr. John Rosenthal, the partner with our audit firm, Coffee Lovins and Company. You had a draft copy of the statements last week. You have the final copy at your table tonight, and Mr. Rosenthal is going to present the highlights, and then it will need board vote.
Good evening. I'm not going to go over every page. We probably can, but then all of us would be asleep, I think, if we did that.
We would too.
Exactly. I'm probably going to hit on maybe 20 numbers, but I will go over our reports, our 4 auditor reports. On page 1 starts the auditor's report on the financial statements. And at the very top, I want to point out it's the independent auditor's report, and that's an indication of some of the processes we had to go through to see that we're independent of the school board. Years ago, a lot of governmental entities had their auditors prepare the financial statements and probably did some calculations, depreciation or whatever. And I can tell you that we did what we didn't do any, these are a lot of negatives here, non-attest services, but leave it to the auditors to come up with language like this. Melissa and her staff prepared all these financial statements and did all the calculations to come up with these numbers, which is a big undertaking, as you can tell. I'll move on to the report on the financial statements. We're reporting on the financial statements. Management is responsible for these statements, and that's even better that management prepares these statements. Our responsibility is to render an opinion on the statements themselves. And if you'll look at the top of page 2, is our opinions on the financial statements. And basically the financial statements present fairly in all material respects, financial position, the statement, the activities of the school board. And this is what I would call a clean opinion, clean report, or unmodified report. And that's an A, if you will, in terms of auditing. Now there are some supplementary schedules, one that we did not audit, and that would be the management's discussion and analysis. There's 2 pension schedules in about, say, 56, 57, somewhere in that range. And the other schedules, we did present audit or perform audit procedures on them. And so then at the top of page 3, we're just saying those schedules are fairly stated on material respects in relation to the financial statements. And then we refer to another report that I'll get into in a minute. I would suggest that, if nothing else, if you'll read over pages 4 to 11, that gives you the 20,000-foot elevation snapshot of the financial statements. It's a very condensed summary of everything there. Now I'll get into a few of the numbers, not many of them. On page 12, and I'll go back 15 or so years, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board decided that governmental entities need to present a consolidated set of financial statements, and that's what page 12 and 13 present to you. They're not necessarily what you manage by, because page 12 includes, if you'll look maybe a third of the way down, what we call the capital assets of the school board, and that's a $93 million asset right there. Most of what you manage are the cash and assets easily convertible to cash and what you can spend, and those fixed assets you can't spend right away. And then also the pension liability through the state pension plan is included in here. If you'll look at the bottom, the net position is strong at $66.6 million. And it decreased, and this is purely an accounting, a non-cash decrease. And on page 13, I'm not even going to get into that detail, but in essence, the decrease was depreciation over the fixed asset additions and pension expense over what you paid in. So the depreciation was roughly $6 million. The pension expense was $2 million over what you paid in, and that would give you the decrease in your, what I would call a GAAP net position. But now, if you take this now, the confusing part, if we go to page 15 is a better one, and you'll see what you normally would manage by. And page 15 shows you how your services that you provided and how they're funded through short-term funding. And you'll see at the bottom right-hand corner, your change in fund balance, you had an increase of $1.1 million in your governmental funds. And if I go over to the general fund, the far left, and I'll just pick the revenue from the county for the general fund was $34.8 million, and that's about a $1.1 million increase over the prior year. You don't have the prior year, or 3.3%. Total revenue in the general fund was $35.7 million. Total expenditure is about 2/3 of the way down, $35.7 million. Basically a break even, a little bit of a loss, or expenditures over revenues of $16,000. Now, you budgeted to spend $570,000 over your revenues. So you improved over what you had budgeted, and I went back over 5 years or so, and so for 13, 14, and 15, you'd spent $6 million over what you'd taken in. In 16, you had $1 million increase, and this year you're break even, so it looks like the last 2 years you're stabilizing on your over expenditures there.
Is that reflected in here anywhere?
No.
Those figures?
No. I pulled out old reports and just said, okay, where were we at and where are we at now? Now, under the state public school fund, the state money that you got is $109.4 million. In the prior year, you got $107.5. So you had a slight increase, was a big dollar amount, but comparatively a 1.8% increase, or $1.9 million from the prior year. So overall, if I looked at it, and I just look at the far right-hand corner, you had an overall increase in your governmental funds of $1.1 million, which is very strong, especially considering where you have been and where you're going to. Okay, I'm not going to go over any more numbers unless somebody has some question in any of the notes. It's a lot to take in, but I will go over the rest of our audit reports. Page 56 starts our audit report. We have to consider internal control over financial reporting and compliance over financial statements as part of our audit. And basically, we don't express an opinion on internal control, but we will report to you if there were any material weaknesses that we find or significant deficiencies. And at the top of page 57, we indicate that we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control. And then also, we got to consider compliance, the school board's compliance over matters that would have a financial statement effect. Did you adopt your budget in time? Because then you're going to be in violation of the state law. Are your investments or cash accounts and authorized investments? Did you spend over your budgeted amounts as far as however you budget line item or department, and you didn't? And basically, from our process, we didn't note any compliance issues in going through that over the financial statements. Now, the next page 58, 59, and 60 and 61, I'm going to go over together. As part of the process of the federal funds you get and the state funds, you're required to have what we call a single audit. So you hire us to audit compliance of major programs, and these reports are our report on the consideration of the compliance issues that we looked at on those programs. So basically, we audited the compliance of the major federal and the major state programs. And again, management is responsible for compliance. Our responsibility is to issue an opinion on compliance on the major federal and state programs. And at the top of 59 and 61, we'll say the board complied in all material respects to the compliance requirements that could have a direct and material effect on the financial statements. Basically, we didn't find any compliance issues when we went through that we felt that we need to communicate to you. Now, and then as far as internal control over compliance, we consider the internal control over your compliance procedures to determine what kind of tests we need to perform. And not to issue a report on compliance, but basically to find out, okay, can we rely on this or rely on this step or whatever the case may be. And again, we do it in a negative. We did not identify any significant deficiencies in your internal control over compliance. And then as a short, page 62 is a summary of the reports I just went over with you. And page 63 at the top are the major federal programs that we considered this year. And at the bottom of the page are the major state programs. And they rotate basically every third year. If you've got a program, federal program of over $750,000, it's going to have to be audited. And there's like a 3-year rotation in coverage on that. Okay, one last piece of information, and it's a letter, a 3-page letter. And this is required communication to the governing board. And so any audit you would have, we're required to communicate these items to you. And part of that communication was in our engagement letter of March that you've already gone over. And then I'll go over these other items. Under significant audit findings, basically your accounting policies are noted in Note 1 of your financial statements. And there were no new accounting policies adopted or changed during the year ending June 30th, 17. If you remember 3 or 4 years ago, you had to adopt new pension standards, and so that would have been a big change noted. Accounting estimates, your 2 biggest estimates, as far as the statements go, are depreciable assets, calculation of depreciation, determining the life of the assets, how long they're going to last, and then also coming up with pension liability that you rely on the state's pension plans, actuary, and state auditor to arrive at those numbers. And basically, we look at those calculations, the depreciation and the pension, and determine, are they reasonable, do they make sense, and are they comparable to what they should be on the financial statements. The next items on page 2, we encountered no difficulties in performing the audit. Management didn't put up a fuss or keep us from looking at things or whatever the case is. And the next part, corrected and uncorrected misstatements, reflects a lot on the finance department because there were no audit adjustments as far as us going through the audit process, and there were no past adjustments. A lot of times we may go through an audit and the finance officer may say, no, I don't want to post that entry. If we had something that was material enough, we would bring it to your attention, and we had none of that. We're required to notify you if we know management has consulted with other auditors as far as what they call opinion shopping. There was none of that going on. And then the other findings and issues reflects back to the supplementary information that already had gone over. Okay, I ran through that in a hurry. Any questions?
Boring is good.
Oh, yeah.
We'll take that.
Okay, oh, yeah. It's a very good report, yes.
And the federal programs was basically our school nutrition, is that correct?
Correct, the cluster of the school nutrition. Like I said, there's a 3-year rotation on, because if not, you'd spend a lot of money and we'd spend a lot of time going through all those programs every year.
I just want to comment that that's probably one of the more complicated things we deal with as far as federal regulations, and if they come up clean, we'd like to compliment our people on that. And then also, our states were the public school fund, vocational education, and the buses. So, nice to have clean audits on all those. Thank you.
That's it on my part.
Ms. White, once again, I'd like to compliment you and your staff on all the hard work you've done. It's one thing about it, you sometimes drive us crazy with all your numbers, but at least you know how to put them in the right places and make it all work. I also want to compliment you on the fact that we budgeted over $500,000 last year, a fund balance that you could have used, and you only used $16,000 of it. And once again, you've done a marvelous job. Our net revenues, our net value was up $1.1 million, and so even though we did lose just the $16,000, again, nothing but high praises for you, your staff, and your whole organization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, board members, or Mr. Johnson?
No, we have to vote on this one now, I believe.
Yeah. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the audited financial statements.
I make a motion that we approve the audited financial statements.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the 2016-17 audited financial statements. Board, are there any other discussion or questions? All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, no.
No.
You weren't quick enough.
I wasn't. No, I wasn't. I was going to tell you something. That's all right. I was going to concur with what you said for the staff.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Taylor, Restart School Collaboration.
Yes, Mr. Page, Mr. Johnson, members of the board. Last month at the September board meeting, we brought to you some information about the innovation project and the Restart Collaborative. In the spring of 2017, the board approved restart applications for MB Mills, Statesville Middle School, Troutman Middle, and Statesville High Schools. By becoming a member of the Restart Collaborative, these schools, as well as district administration, would receive some additional support and coaching, and as well as collaboration with some of the other schools across the state that are in the same kind of state with restarts. In addition to receiving coaching on the restart initiatives, the district also would be able to participate in some of the virtual academy collaborative, the homeschool academy, some principal leadership components, additional STEM pieces, and leadership and innovative classrooms. So I've given you quite a bit of information there on that, and it is the district's recommendation that Iredell-Statesville schools and our restart schools participate in this collaborative.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we did table this last month for more information, if you recall. Again, I did, in the February meeting, ask if there was any money cost associated with the restart program. And I went back to check the video to make sure. You said no additional money. So that's what you said at the time.
That is correct. There's not a requirement.
When I asked for more information about the company associated with this project or the people associated with this project, we pretty much got the same information and I'm still having trouble finding the company. You did mention the law firm of Everett, Gaskins, and Hancock, and I did not really see, unless it is the innovation project. And what I was searching for was to find out information about the company. Are they nonprofit? Do they hold nonprofit status? I look at if we pay $30,000 and the other schools that's on that list paid $30,000, that would come up to about $690,000 per year that this company would be getting. Now, I also read in there that they want to give teachers and the principals additional duties with what they have to carry out. And I find this disheartening because if I'm going to pay for a service, I don't think my people should have to do the work, which is what it appears to be looking like. It may be a great idea. I don't know. And I did have a question. Where you told us where you were going to get the money, but I don't recall that. What?
The money comes from the money generated through becoming a restart school. So it's not coming out of the regular budget that you approved. So with restarts, the money comes to them in a different allocation.
This is from the state?
It's from the state. It's all from the state through PRC 037. And so within those additional funds that are generated because the money comes differently, it would be taken out of that allocation.
So the state of North Carolina is going to pay us per school for the restart?
They don't pay per school. What they do is, and Melissa could probably explain this better than I, but basically the way the allocations are received, instead of receiving a teacher allocation, a slot for that teacher, we receive the average teacher pay. Is that correct? We receive the allocation for the average teacher pay, And so that is the way that there's some additional funds generated so that these restart schools have the ability to do some things differently. As you saw in a lot of the FAQs that are here, restart schools have a lot of flexibility that our traditional schools do not have. They have the same flexibility as charter-like schools. And so with that, it's kind of, Mr. Johnson talks about don't think outside the box, break the box. This is really busting up that box so that teachers or those schools have an opportunity to do things differently. And so this would give them the opportunity to collaborate with some of those other schools to provide, some additional coaching and supports that are not being provided by Department of Public Instruction.
So if we didn't do that, what would you do with the money the additional funds that you got? You could hire another teacher?
Okay, so just a little bit of clarity. She's pretty much exactly right. It's not additional state money that we get necessarily. I mean, they tell us how much per school we have to move out of existing pots of money into a separate pot for the restarts. And what she mentioned is they give you the ability to generate a little more flexibility with the money, a little more money, by converting teaching positions at average salary versus lowest salary. So I may convert a teacher at the average and say I get $50,000 for that position, but that position may only cost me $35,000, let's say. So then that incremental difference is extra money that you can spend on additional things. So you're right. I mean, we're going to have to move about $10 million between all 4 schools into this pot of money. And of that $10 million, we're asking to spend $30,000 on this cooperative to help support the needs of these 4 restart schools. Yes, if we didn't spend $30,000 on this agreement, we could do something else with it, yes. But this is what we would recommend that part of that money go towards.
Okay.
And we did have schools come in a couple of weeks ago and present their plans to exec cabinet and the executive directors, and so we were able to fulfill, I think, the majority of their requests with that.
So if we have a teacher assistant in a position that is traditionally a certified teacher, and that's where we're getting funds, right?
None of our schools currently have a teacher assistant in a certified teacher position, but it would be an option to have a non-certified person in a teacher position.
And that would be what you would be looking at to some extent, correct?
They could. Okay. Yeah, we do. Dr. Lassane said we do have one school that has requested to have 2 TAs instead of a teacher in a PE classroom. So they would have a certified teacher that was there and then the 2 TAs.
Instead of 2 teachers.
Right.
Well, would this allow us to shore up our EC inclusion classes?
So the licensing regulations from federal guidelines are required to be in place for the EC classrooms. If schools wanted to request additional staff, that they could be used in that, but they still have to meet for CTE and for EC. They still have to meet all the and Title I. They still have to meet those federal requirements for those programs.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Is this a question? Is this an annual event? In other words, if we get into this year, is it renewable next year, and if we don't like it, we stay out of it?
Absolutely, yes.
So if we enter into this agreement and we don't get enough, or we get what we think we're going to get, or get what not get what we want, we don't have to do it next year.
That is correct.
Okay.
What I was going to say is interpretation is the same thing. When I read that, it tell our principals and teachers to do different things. But I think the point of it is, in a restart school, is to look outside that box, and they're going to have to do something different because what they're doing is not working.
That is correct.
And that's the way I took it. I didn't take it as they're telling us what to do. I was taking it as in we're going to have to adopt their method and take some of their.
Right. Well, and I think what this does is, you're right. They're not telling us what to do, and what they have traditionally done. It's totally, they need to look at different options. And so there is no prescribed step 1, step 2, step 3. It's just giving them some opportunities to look at all of the options and think about their staffing differently, thinking about programming differently, thinking about scheduling differently, looking at all those things in a different way than they have traditionally in the past.
And I think staffing will be one of the major ones because that gives an opportunity to double down in some areas.
But that's the, off on the understanding. This agreement, this $30,000 agreement, gives us access to someone who has done this, is doing this, that can help us with what we might need in a certain situation. It's not with the staffing, it's just collaboration?
Correct.
Isn't that what it is?
That is correct. It also gives us legal advice in those areas as well.
This is not the establishment or the running or anything like that. This is getting together with other people that are doing these same things and finding out if we can do it in the same or better.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
So when Ms. White writes the check, who's she going to write it to?
To the Innovation Project.
Okay, and who is that? Do you have a name? I know there was one name I tried to email that person.
Yes, and we did get that corrected. I think that it's hard to read on this sheet of paper, but it's AMCCOLL. It's difficult to read on this. There are several folks that are a part of this. Ann McCall, Mr. Johnson, is she the lead person on this?
Yes.
I know she's worked with
Ann
Restart.
McCall is the lead on this initiative. At one time, she worked for the law firm that you mentioned earlier. She has pulled together quite a few retired folks that are helping her. She's also got folks from the university system, the community college system that are volunteering their time to help with this initiative as well. We were invited to join this group 3 years ago. This group heard about the work that we was doing with homeschool parents in the community. They thought that was a very innovative idea and wanted us to become part of this so that we could share that innovation across North Carolina. We turned that down 3 years ago. The reason that we're bringing it back to you now is because in addition to our 4 restart schools that we think will greatly benefit from being in this collaborative and having access to other folks that have already been down this road. When we applied for these restart applications, you're right, Mr. Howell, this doesn't cost us a dime. The state of North Carolina says you can be a restart school, no cost to you. What we're paying for with this $30,000 is coaching and collaboration and visiting other school districts and sitting down with people that are like-minded and trying to think out of the box and be innovative and creative. We will have access to Ms. McCall, who is recognized as one of the top education attorneys in the entire state. She served as the attorney for the state school board at one time. So it's really important. The second page of the first handout that you have in your packet, in addition to Restart and helping out our 4 Restart schools, here are the other initiatives that are going on across North Carolina that we now will have input into, and we will have access to coaches. Virtual academies, homeschool initiatives, principal leadership studies, future STEM teacher scholarships, innovative classrooms, and leadership services. This roughly, for the 4 schools that are participating in Restart, this is a cost of approximately $7,500 for each of those schools. But the way we plan to use this collaboration, all 36 of our schools will benefit because of this. So if you're going to look at it on a per school basis, the cost really comes down. And so we do think that this is important. It's been made clear to us by the Department of Public Instruction that they are giving absolutely zero coaching on these restarts. So any coaching that you get, you're on your own to find it. And that's why this initiative has become so popular in North Carolina.
I guess that's one of my questions is the pricing. How are y'all getting $30,000?
It would come from this restart.
No. I'm talking about how'd you calculate that cost? I was saying with 4 schools, and it says down here level 1's 20. Is it we on a different level or something?
35. Well, there's
$2,500 per school, and 4 schools would be $10,000.
that was for the district.
Level 1?
I know. That's what I'm saying. Are we on a different level?
We could be. I don't know which level they're going to go for.
We're on level 30,000 according to that. That's what
My
I was asking. How'd you
we
get
were
that
doing
calculation?
the level 2 is my
We're
understanding.
going to the level 2, so it costs a little bit more.
Okay, that's
That included my understanding now is that includes the other
All the
initiatives.
district support and
Right.
the other initiatives.
The level 1 was just restart.
Right.
But we were going to join the
I'm
whole
just saying,
thing.
that's where I was asking where you're getting that calculation.
Yeah, the 30,000 gives any of our principals access to this. Not only our 4 restarts, all 36
So it's
principals have access to
$7,500
this.
a school.
That's right.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's what it would be then. Okay.
So you're not going to sneak in the budget and take a few dollars for here and there, right? It's going to be all through this.
It's all through this.
These are all state funds, and I tell you something, when all is said and done, you're going to be surprised at how much money is saved because of this initiative.
The only thing in my experience, these people that are, running this show here, not you, but the Restart, they are administrators and not really educators. And I sort of laugh at sometimes of their theories about what education is and about how to teach people.
I will say that all the folks that are involved in this initiative are former educators and former administrators, and they are very, very passionate about public education and helping to support public schools. And so as schools have gone into this restart status, they want to do everything they can to help make sure that those schools are successful.
So if we approve this, you're going to give us a good report come June and how it's worked and what some things are, and just include some things that were great.
We'll be happy to update the board on that. I know the principals all got an invite to go to a collaborative session on October the 18th in Rowan, Salisbury. It's a half-day session to do some collaboration with other schools, so we'll be happy to update the board.
Mr. Chairman, is this a voting item?
Yes, it is.
I'd like to make a motion that we enter into contract with the Restart School Collaborative.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and second to enter into the Restart School Collaborative through the Innovative Project, I believe it's called. Any further discussion? Dr. Taylor, I'd like to say I'm thrilled and excited about the Restart. Was lucky enough to go to a policy conference that they discussed it. I think it's going to be a very good thing. I do think we certainly can learn from other schools and systems. It's probably more important to learn what doesn't work as it is what does work.
Absolutely.
I also think our curriculum department will actually become a leader, and Iredell-Statesville Schools has always been a leader in getting out of the box, and I think we will continue to do that. I think they'll all gain a lot from us, but I look forward to seeing where we're headed with our Restart schools.
Thank you.
Any other comments? We have a motion to approve the initiative project for $30,000, and let me make one other comment. Mr. Johnson, thank you for bringing this to us. You didn't have to. You could have spent this money without the board's approval. I know that, but I thought it was very transparent of you to bring this to us and let us discuss it and for us to understand it. So thank you for that. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Ms. White, we're going to buy some school buses.
Okay, these are 2 activity buses that come to you for approval based on board policy. It requires board approval for any expenditures $90,000 and above. So the cost of these 2 activity buses is $174,500, if my memory is correct. I'm not sure about that. So it's already in the budget. It was in the original budget approved in the capital budget. So,
what kind of buses? I mean, who's the manufacturer?
I think these are Cummins, are the engines. I'm not sure.
So White
The
International.
White International is
So it'd
the
be internationals.
manufacturer. Okay.
They're made here in North Carolina?
Yeah, again, I don't know.
I
Sorry.
don't know that.
Used to, Thomas Bus Company over there in Greensboro.
There are 3 different companies on state contract. Thomas may very well be one still, but this is the company that the Transportation Department has chosen, and it's on state contract.
Okay, that's what
I question, it was something to do with the engine they wanted.
Okay.
That they felt better about was with this bus.
Okay, I think it is a Cummins engine, is that right?
Yeah.
Cummins diesel.
Yeah.
That the International had been using the International, but they have now gone to the Cummins, which is a lot more dependable engine, and that's why they want to go with this particular truck, as it has a Cummins engine in it. I want to make a comment that I'm thrilled we're buying them with air conditioning. That's been way overdue for our activity buses. Some of our regular buses now have air conditioning. I'm glad to see that. Any other comments or questions about the purchase of activity buses? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to purchase these buses.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve purchase of 2 activity buses. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're moving into the MOU for the Iredell County Board of Commissioners. Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Chairman Page, members of the board, Superintendent Johnson. As we have discussed previously, Iredell County has approached us with a proposal to move the Iredell County Sheriff's Department offices and training from Ebenezer to the Monticello site. What we would enter into is a memorandum of understanding with the county with the conditions that we laid out in a previous meeting, and I'll be glad to answer any of those specific conditions if anybody has a question.
And just for public
Yes.
knowledge, if an offer is made from the public on either of these properties, we could entertain those offers for sale of the property.
That is my understanding. That's correct, and we would put that into our memorandum.
Mine's basically Ebenezer's free and clear for us to do what we want. The Monticello property, we would have to, both boards would have to agree to sell it. But is that correct?
Yes.
I understand.
Basically, we would not market Monticello, but if we were approached with an offer, we could entertain that offer with the county and work with them. They've indicated that they would understand such an offer. Ebenezer, we can market. We can go out and actually market that property and sell it if we choose.
Well, I think it's, again, we've got a great relationship with our county commissioners. Also, I'd like for it to be known that the gyms at these facilities will be used by the Sheriff's Department Police Athletic League. So it's our students that would actually end up being involved back in using these gyms and these athletic facilities there, which, again, it's our students, whether it's playing basketball for their elementary school or whatever. So I think we'll see good usage of our facilities even through the county. And I'd like to thank you and Ms. White for your work on this. Also, Ms. Bonham for her committee that her and Cindy Haynes were on met. I know they've met some, so thank you for your work on that, and thank y'all for all the work on this. Any other comments? Chair would entertain a motion to approve the MOU with the Iredell County Commissioners on these 2 properties.
I make the motion that we approve this memorandum of understanding with the Board of Commissioners regarding Ebenezer and Monticello.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the memorandum of understanding with the county on these 2 properties. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That moves. Well, we're moving right along today. Any other business before the board at this time. And Dr. Miller, get on the ball here. He's come on here. He's holding me up. Don't run too hard now. You're getting too old for this, yeah. Very good. We have one speaker tonight, Ms. Beth Packman. She will speak to us about Crosby Scholars.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Beth Packman, and for Mr. Kennington, who's new to the board, welcome. I am on the board of directors for one of your community partners called Crosby Scholars of Iredell County. Mr. Johnson sits on the board with me. We're really excited. We have been in existence for 3 years now, and this spring we will have our first group of students graduating who have completed the entire Crosby Scholars curriculum here in the county. And we will have a big gala, and it will be a wonderful, wonderful evening this spring. In order, as board of directors, to help the students in financial need, our board of directors has to create a scholarship fund for what are called last dollar grants. For instance, in Forsyth County, where Crosby Scholars has been in existence for 25 years, last year they had 800 students graduate through Crosby Scholars and gave away $500,000 in last dollar grants. So we're just beginning and we're starting little, but I am here to invite all of you to come attend our first fundraiser. It's going to be a very fun evening at Trump National, and Trump has graciously donated the venue to us so that we can make as much money for the scholarships as possible. It's called Crosby's Casino Aspire. And your $100, it's $100 per person, but that actually includes a beautiful buffet dinner, $300 in casino cash to come play blackjack, poker, roulette, and craps, as well as a reverse raffle. And the grand prize for the reverse raffle is $5,000 to the winner. So it's going to be black tie optional, a fun dress-up evening to bring your spouse or friend with you. And I would just encourage you all to come join us and have a great fun evening for a terrific cause, as well as encourage all of your friends to attend. So I see Mr. Kennington actually already has an invitation, but if you need any more, I have posters, and we would love your help spreading the word. So it is, oh, sorry about that, November the 11th, which is a Saturday. It's Veterans Day. So,
and board members, your invitations were in your Friday update a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So any other questions? We would love to see you all there.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is $100 tax deductible?
It unfortunately does not, because goods and services are being received.
Because a lot of people would ask that.
Yeah, yeah. The one other good thing is if you cannot attend, you do not have to be present to win the $5,000 reverse raffle. So even if you would like to buy a ticket, it puts you into the raffle. So.
Very good. Thank you. And we're very thrilled with what Crosby Scholars is doing within our school system. It's a great, great opportunity for our children. So thank you, Ms. Packman. Board members, at the back of your packet is the approved field trips this month that were met board policy, have been approved by administration. That ends our public comment section. Board member comments. I'll open the floor to our board members. We got a
Chairman, I'd like to thank this board for the faith, confidence you placed in me. I appreciate it very much. I look forward to working with each and every one of you as we move forward to continue what you have done in the past to make the over, I think, 20,000 students in the school system prosper. So I thank you for your confidence, and I look forward to serving with each and every one of you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kenyon, and welcome to our group. We look forward to working with you also. just a few comments last Friday, and it just continues to amaze me at what Iredell-Statesville schools do. I don't think people have no idea all the things that go on. This is such a complex organization, and we do so many things above and beyond. And last Friday, we had a drill at Third Creek School, an active shooter drill. And this probably wasn't a good week to have it, but it had been scheduled for a long time. And I spoke 2 years ago when we had one at West Iredell. It's really eerie when you're standing in a school and the SWAT teams are coming down the hallway and you're hearing M16s going off all around you. But we practice, the police, the sheriff's department. I mean, I saw so many organizations all there working together. It was fascinating. And our people, Mike James, I'm going to miss some names, but Mike James organized this, Mr. Armstrong, Miss Jonas, Susie, y'all all, everybody did so much. And I saw improvements, especially in the student reconnections. Our nurses were there in wholesale. It was amazing to see how many organizations and how well the school functioned. Now, I'm sure we had some things that we learned from, and that's why we do it. But again, how many systems go that extra mile to start to practice something that we hope and pray never happens? And but again, I just want to compliment the system. I can't say enough about Iredell County, the Sheriff's Department, the Highway Patrol, the Police Department, and to watch them all coming in there working together in those type situations. The police didn't know what they were coming into. It was really well done. I'm not going to go into details about some of the things that were going on, but I'll tell you, Mike threw a bunch at the law enforcement this time, and they responded well. And our staff did an excellent job. So once again, thank you for Mr. Johnson for pushing that, and for all our people that did it. And I certainly hope we bring Mike James up to give him a round of applause at some point in time for doing that. That was a huge, huge operation.
Last week, my wife and I were in Washington, D.C., and in the hotel we were staying at, there was a conference. It was an international conference on children. And so I got nosy and I started walking around. And I happened to meet some people at dinner one night that were in the conference, and they were from North Carolina. And I thought it was interesting that they had heard of Iredell-Statesville schools. They were very interested in our vocational center, and I invited them to come anytime. And so I thought that was very good, and it says a lot for this school system. Thank you.
Any other member comments? Mr. Johnson, we'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mr. Page, board members. Mr. Kennington, on behalf of the administration, we too want to welcome you to the Board of Education, and we thank you for the time that you're going to be donating and giving to the school system and the betterment of our children, and we look forward to working with you. Board members, I did send Mr. Kennington a packet of materials the other day with contact information and charts, and just really filled up his mailbox with a lot of good material. And Mr. Kennington's already been in and been briefed on one of our departments, so I commend you for doing that, Mr. Kennington. And again, welcome to the Board of Education. If the staff can ever be of assistance to you, all you need to do is let us know.
Look forward to working with the staff and you.
Mr. Page, you stole my thunder on the Operation Crawdad.
I'm sorry.
I was going to brag a little bit about that too. I do want to thank everybody that participated in that. It takes a tremendous amount of planning. You named the folks that planned that thing in your remarks, and so we certainly want to thank them. Months and months of planning and detailed operations went into this event. We also work very closely with the hospitals, and they use this as their annual emergency drill to meet their certification requirements. So it brings the entire community together with a lot of really dedicated, caring professional people who help us out and make sure that student safety is the top priority of our school system. I also hope that it gives our parents some reassurance that we do take their children's safety first. The reunification plans after an event like this is the challenging part of that drill. And I don't know of many school systems that even take that on, the reunification piece. But it is a very successful campaign for us, and we learn from it every time we do that. Board, I want to thank you, too, for approving the innovation project tonight and your vote. And we make this commitment to you that we will use those funds wisely. We will work very closely not only with our 4 Restart schools, but all of our schools. We realize, and the Innovation Project drives this point home, that public schools are going to have to change the way we do business. The old days of the monopoly for public education are over, and we have to think differently. We have to market ourselves, and that's exactly what this initiative will help us do. So thank you for the confidence in approving that for us tonight. I also want to talk about, just briefly, about some of the great decisions that I had mentioned earlier as we kicked off this school year that are upon us. In November, our Technology Refresh Committee will be bringing a recommendation to you on the next wave of technology for our school system. And this group has worked very, very hard. They have included lots and lots of folks in this. We have students that are piloting devices now. We have parents that are helping with that pilot process, and of course our teachers involved in this. So in November, you will get to hear from this group, and we're very excited about the recommendation that they're going to be bringing you. I was reading some material the other day, and I don't know if you guys received the Public School Forum Friday updates, but a couple things caught my attention in that. The General Assembly was in town last week, and we was hoping that they were going to have some conversations about the class size legislation. I can't tell you how important it's going to be for the General Assembly to address class size legislation. We got a little reprieve this school year, but we're beginning to hear rumblings that there may not be the anticipated funding for the enhancement classes that was promised to us. Without that funding, it will be impossible for us to comply with this law. So when we have our legislative forum in December, we want to have our legislators come in and give you the opportunity to, again, emphasize the importance of sitting down and working out the details of our class size legislation. The other piece of work that we was hoping the General Assembly would address, and they did tweak it just a little bit, is the principal pay. As you know, principal pay was radically improved this year, but there are some gaps in that funding. We realize that we're going to have to sit down locally and work out details on how to address some of the gaps in principal pay. So we look forward to doing that and bringing recommendations to you later in this school year. The reprieve has certainly helped us this year, and we want to use this time that we have to make sure that we have a good strategic plan in place for principal pay. I also want to call your attention to an event that's going to be taking place tomorrow night down at the Career Academy. It's being hosted by the Gifted Learning Department of the school system. It's entitled It's Happening Here, and this is actually a tour of all of our campuses. So folks can come to the event tomorrow night and hear great stories about all of the good things that are taking place in our school system in one location. And we hope to do more of this in the future so that people can make informed decisions. When I talk to parents about school choice, I tell them that they have 36 great choices in the Iredell-Statesville schools. And so a lot of them tell me I haven't thought about it that way before. But tomorrow night we're going to get to see what some of those choice options look like, and we hope it'll be well attended. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any other comments? Looking at announcements, October 30th is a teacher work day. November 6th, committee of the whole meeting at ADR. November 10th is a holiday. November 13th is our Board of Education meeting back here at the Government Center at 6 p.m. Any other announcements? Mr. Johnson, I believe tomorrow we also have a joint something with the chamber on bringing.
That's Wednesday.
That's Wednesday. That is.
Yes, I failed to mention that, but this Wednesday at CATS from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock, we do have a initial meeting with Mitchell Community College and Mooresville Graded on our development of a workforce development blueprint for our community. And the goal of the three systems working on this together is to begin in 6th grade and identify all of the initiatives that we have in place all the way from 6th grade through Mitchell Community College that helps us have a pipeline of highly qualified workers for the community. So we're very excited about this and look forward to bringing something to you very soon about that.
I'm very excited about that. You know, I'm a big workforce development person, and talked with Mooresville Superintendent Stephen Mooney the other day, and we're excited about working with him and Mitchell in this joint venture. Don't we have some middle schoolers visiting, going through some, I'm trying to think what it is. Dr. Taylor? And this is through the chamber and the economic development, is that correct? Again, we got so much going on, we can't even keep up with it. Okay, Career Pathways Middle School Day is tomorrow at the Civic Center. That's what I was trying to get out, but I wasn't doing a very good job of it. Again, it's every day somewhere this system's doing something that's out. We're doing something, and most of it's really, really good. Let's make it simple. Any other comments or announcements? The chair would entertain a motion to go back into closed session for personnel.
Mr. Chairman, according to the North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, I make a motion that after 5 minutes of this motion passing, we enter into a closed session to discuss personnel and to preserve the attorney-client privilege because we want to see our 4 fans that stayed for the whole meeting. Thank you.
I've got a motion and a second that we, after 5 minutes, max, is that max time or real time? That after 5 minutes we go into closed session. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed? We'll be back in closed session in 5 minutes. Thank you. Motion to go back into open session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to return to open session. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you very much.